question from Jake, who's been training jiu-jitsu for about 6 months, and he says his defense has gotten pretty good. He's able to defend himself really well against other white belts, and he's starting to find himself seeing the opportunities for chokes and other submissions. But the problem is he's fearful of going for him. He's afraid of maybe being baited into something, or just afraid of failing and getting submitted. And so he's wondering if I have any advice on how to increase aggression during rolling. So first off, Jake, thank you for the question. Let me start by saying I don't think you need aggression. And the reason I say this is because you're in the natural sort of phase as a white belt. This is sort of a natural, every student that I have goes through this. I went through this, right? This is just what you're supposed to go through, right? When you start jiu-jitsu, you're literally drowning underwater. You have no idea what you're doing. A lot of times all these positions are so foreign to you, and then eventually you're basically able to tread and keep yourself afloat and you can breathe. And that's when you start to look around like, well, where do I want to go? And that's kind of where you're at now. You're able to breathe. You're able to sort of maintain some decent positions, maybe guard, mount, side control, whatever it might be. And now you're starting to see these opportunities present themselves, and you're like, okay, well, where do I want to go? How do I get this stuff going? And probably a lot of times everyone's default idea is just more aggression. But again, I can tell you from personal experience, I had plenty of aggression when I was younger, right? And I still have plenty of aggression, but when I was younger, I was very aggressive because I was so insecure. I hated losing, right? I didn't want to lose. And so what I would do is when I would get to these positions, I would be very aggressive to get to the positions, and then when these opportunities presented themselves, I still didn't go for them, right? Because again, it had nothing to do with aggression. It had everything to do with just fear. And I was in the same boat as you because I was fearful of going for the submission and losing the position. Because again, I fought so hard to get there, and then I'm going to go for the submission and possibly lose it because there is no reward without risk, and I was afraid to take the risk for the reward, right? I was like, well, as long as I hold this position, I'm kind of winning, right? Which doesn't make any sense because I would do better for myself to go for the submission, maybe, mess something up or at least improve my ability to submit. But instead, I was thinking of just winning and losing in those kind of terms. And so I would just hang on to a side control, hang on to a mount, or I'd lock up guard, and that's all I would do. I'd just stay there. Now, that said, I'll give you some ideas to think about. So again, you don't need aggression. What you need to do is understand first, this is sort of the natural progression. What's going to happen is I imagine, anyway, this is what happens for me, and this is what happens for a lot of my students, is as you're in these positions more and more and more, right, and you're probably going to find yourself in similar positions often, what's going to happen is your body is then going to start to pick up the responses of your training partners and the people that you roll with in competitions or whatever you're doing. And a lot of times you're going to find that people have the same responses, right? There's a handful of responses that you'll run into for most positions and moves. And again, this is pretty much the same. This is why, when someone shows a DVD series, right? Like if you get like a half guard DVD or something, they have, these very like, if they do this, I go for this. If they do this, I go for this. And those things work because a lot of times people just have the same responses just, ingrained into them. And so as you see these sort of movements and these adjustments that your partner makes over and over again, you're going to be able to begin to become faster at it, right? It's like playing the game of chess. For instance, if you're pushing your partner's arm down for a key lock from mountain, and they begin to turn to grab their arm to pull it back, right? Well, there's this moment where they've now exposed their side, and you have an armbar option there. And so what will happen is in the beginning, you probably won't be able to do it fast enough because you're going to see the opportunity just a second too late. But as you continue to do this and you continue to be exposed to this particular movement, eventually you're going to start to just feel it, right? And you're going to see the opportunity there, and then you'll be able to take that armbar. And then the last thing is just to understand, like, again, when it comes down to being submitted or losing, okay, what is losing? Like, what is losing in jiu-jitsu? There is no such thing as losing, right? Unless you're competing, there's a clear, definite winner and loser. When you're training, you're trying to sharpen each other, right? Again, one, you're not doing yourself any service by not going for it because you're not going to get any better that way, right? I can tell you that from my experience as a coach, the students that get the best in the gym are the ones that just go for it, right? They don't care. They don't talk about how well they're doing. They don't talk about who they beat or anything stupid like that. They don't even care. They're just like, they don't ask about stripes. They just like, I'm just here. I'm just training, right? I'm happy to be here. That's it. And so that's what you want to do. You just want to take those chances and go for it because one, you're going to make yourself better. Also, you're not doing your partner any service by not going for it because, again, I say this, our job when we're inside the gym is to go after each other. but always in the understanding that we're trying to build each other up. Iron sharpens iron, right? Like I posted a video last night on my Instagram of me and Chad like just beating the snot out of each other with takedowns and everything else, and it was fun. And the thing is, when Chad and I go for each other, again, I'm not going after Chad to stand over top of him in victory, right? I'm going with him because I need to help prepare him for the battles that will be out there when he competes. I'm there to try to push him just to make him better. And I know the same is true for me. Like I want Chad to be able to give me a good run for my money. I want him to be able to submit me because I want him to put me in danger and uncomfortable situations so that he makes me better. And we just can go back and forth, and it's the same with everyone in the gym. That's the way it's supposed to work. And so understand that, again, there's not such thing as winning and losing necessarily when you're in training, unless you're putting into like a competition sort of mindset. When you're just training, you're there to just improve. And so again, take the chances. You got to go for it, because again, if you don't, you're going to only be hindering yourself, and you're not helping your training partners like you could be as well. So it's kind of a whole thing. And so what I would say to you is your next training session, Jake, again, I'm kind of rambling all over the place. Here's my little end advice. Next training session you go to, when you roll with someone, I want you to just go for a submission, okay? And again, this will be liberating in some ways, right? Because you'll be like, because again, you're gonna be nervous, but you just gotta do it. This is part of jiu-jitsu, right? To kind of overcome our fears and sort of get into uncomfortable spots. So the next time you go with someone, I just want you to make a goal. Maybe get a journal or a piece of paper out, write it down, put it in your phone, in an Evernote or something, and write down, you wanna go for 3 or 5 submissions, whatever it is. And it doesn't matter how sloppy they are. It doesn't matter if you don't plan it very well. Just go for them. And then get smashed afterwards. Let the person get on top of you and submit you. Let them do all these things just so that you can beat the fear, literally beat the fear out of you, and understand that there is nothing to be afraid of, right? Again, you're just training. And then that will liberate you to do more and more and more in the future. And so, Jake, I think this is it, man. I hope this video helps you, brother, and thank you for the question.